Hello, folks. Patrick here with Sovereign Empowerment, and I'm delighted to have you here. Welcome to part 3 and the conclusion to our 2015 Magna Carta presentation as presented by Damien. This video will pick right up where part 2 left off, so if you haven't yet had the chance to see parts 1 and 2, you might want to do that before watching this presentation as it all ties in together. If you'd like to gain a greater understanding of current legal and judicial procedures and processes and learn how government has become what it is today, this is a great place to start. Now, this presentation is not groundbreaking. There's nothing new here. This is merely a collection of thoughts backed by quotes of notable individuals throughout history designed to make you think or even rethink about how your life has and is being governed. Damien has done an outstanding job at compiling information and putting it all together in a neat package that, if followed from the very beginning, should provide a good foundational understanding of the Magna Carta and how it relates to our current times. If you have a desire to learn more about the Magna Carta, there's no shortage of resources available on the internet today, and we encourage you to conduct your own research, albeit with a little caution. Damien provides a few resources for you to dig deeper into the subject, but it goes without saying that using a cautionary approach to your due diligence will yield the best results. In other words, make sure you are consulting credible resources. Now, I'd like to take a moment to speak to my fellow American awakened souls. You may think that the 2015 Magna Carta has no significance to you. Well, let me tell you, nothing could be further from the truth, my friends. Until recent years, I really had no idea how similar many things are here in the United States as to the United Kingdom, other than the word united. Today, having a business partner and truly good friend in England, I have discovered so many similarities and why they exist. I can remember learning, or shall I say being told, about the Magna Carta as early as grade school. As it was back then, I had very little interest in the true origin or ramifications of some piece of paper scribbled on hundreds of years ago on the other side of the pond, and being only interested in the pure romance depicted of medieval times. And I know I can't be the only one that used to gallivant around the backyard in a suit of shining armor, with sword in hand, both of which I painstakingly fabricated out of cardboard. Anyway, today as an adult, I have a completely different understanding of the subject and what the Magna Carta truly represents, because as it turns out, it is a foundational document, the history of constitutional law and individual rights here in the United States. Now, while it was created in medieval England and predates the formation of the United States by hundreds of years, its principles and ideas have had a significant influence on the development of American constitutionalism and the concept of limited government. I find it interesting how the foundation of the Constitution of the United States and even the Bill of Rights are rooted to a document created 5.5 millennia prior to our own declaration. For instance, the Magna Carta profoundly influenced American legal and political thought, such as the idea that the ruler is not above the law and that certain fundamental rights should be protected. Principles contained within the Magna Carta laid the foundation for the protection of individual rights and the concept of due process of law, which are key components of today's American legal system. Sounding familiar yet? Having the right to a fair trial by a jury of one's peers was born from the Magna Carta, along with the principle that no one could be imprisoned or deprived of their property without lawful judgment. Also, numerous legal decisions here in the United States have and continue to be based on habeas corpus, which ensures that a person cannot be held in custody without legal justification, another key component to the Magna Carta. And the Magna Carta also set limits on the power of the monarch and established the idea that government should be bound by laws and respect the rights of its citizens. While the concept of limited government may appear to be missing from today's U.S. government, it is nonetheless fundamental to the U.S. Constitution, which separates powers among different branches of government and contains checks and balances. Yeah, let that sink in for just a moment. Anyway, one of the founding fathers of the United States and second president, to the U.S., John Adams, referred to the Magna Carta as a source of inspiration for American liberties. He believed that it has represented a long history of legal principles that had evolved over time to protect individual rights. So you see, while the 2015 Magna Carta is a historical document from medieval England, its principles and ideas regarding individual rights, the rule of law, and limited government had a lasting impact on American legal and political thought. The Magna Carta served as a precedent and a source of inspiration for the development of the United States' own constitutional framework and the protection of individual liberties. So there you have it, folks. As you can see, life today as we know it has been governed by a single document drawn up over 800 years ago when even kings and queens were pooping in outhouses, referred to back then, of course, as golden towers. So with no further ado, I'm going to let Damien take it away with the conclusion to his 2015 Magna Carta presentation. Is it the cure for tyranny? But before we start, please take a moment to punch that like button down there, and please let us know your thoughts by dropping a comment as well. We love your feedback, and it lets us know that we're doing good work here. Finally, so that you don't miss any new content, make sure you subscribe and click that little ringy-dingy thing down there. Go ahead, do it right now so you don't forget. And look, thanks again for tuning in. We really enjoy bringing fresh content for thought, and we appreciate your support. Make it a great day.
This guy, that we're talking about 500 BC, and this guy was actually an aristocrat, so he was quite wealthy, but he just didn't agree with how things were being run. He was a firm believer that just the common people should have a say in things. I don't know whether he just like ran for local office and all that, and then we got in power with the help of the people, and he started to overthrow the powers, like dictatorship type powers. So around 500 BC, Cleisthenes came to power. Although he was a member of the most powerful families in Athens, he didn't want aristocrats running the government. Cleisthenes was able to overthrow the aristocracy with the help of the people. Under Cleisthenes, the first democratic constitution was established, and true democracy was born, where the people governed themselves. Through this system of self-government, all classes of people were able to sit on juries and submit laws for debate and passage. So we're talking about a trial by jury justice system where, you know, all classes of people were able to have their own say on laws at the submitting stage. So they were able to have a say, basically. Cleisthenes would later be known as the godfather of democracy. So that's the first instance that I came across where you can clearly see what was brought in and how government was ran. So a bit later, so we're going on about exousia rights, which is the same time we're talking ancient Greece. In democratic Athens, all citizens, including defeats, I'm presuming that's how that's pronounced, were equals before the law with exousia. That is, rights to participate in deliberations and vote on laws in the assembly. The right to the trial by jury and defence in which the validity, worth and legality of the law itself may be disputed, and its prosecution consequently annulled by the jury's verdict, and of being randomly selected to the judicial office of juror in trial by jury, by which citizens judge the law in all cases. So there's a common theme. We're not just looking like from 1215. We can go right back and see this kind of system. There's another quote here. This is, the empowerment of citizens is by bestowing on them judicial authority as jurors in trial by jury, in which laws and measures passed by legislatorial majorities in the assembly could be judged, overruled and annulled whenever this was deemed by the jurors necessary to serve justice, liberty and the interests of the people. And this is Justice James Wilson, who was the co-author of the US Constitution. It's a real thing. It's not made up. This trial by jury is the real deal.
The framework's basically there for us to bring that back. There wouldn't be any issues in bringing that back.
No, I don't. As I say, I think it's always been there. It's just, I don't think the establishments are too keen on telling people about this kind of stuff. Even when they go on the watered down version of trial by jury, because it's the jury independence that they don't want to let out. They don't want people to know that they've got the right to disregard legislation. Do you know what I mean? They can't. I don't know. I haven't really experienced court. I think you probably know more about this, but I've never been in like a criminal court case of any sort where there's been a jury. But I'm presuming that the judge guides the jury a little bit. They're not told, listen, you're in full control. You can disregard the legislation, the law that he's supposedly broke, just make your own decisions based on the evidence or based on what you believe yourself, whether that malice aforethought and that intent is there to commit a crime type thing. I don't think that kind of information is shared with the jury. As I say, I've never been on jury service, so I couldn't be 100% sure, but
same with me. I've never obviously been in a criminal trial or anything, so I wouldn't know.
Well, from what I've read and what people have said, it's watered down. The judge plays more of a role in, I don't know whether it, like you would call it, guiding the jury, but definitely intervening. So moving on, the whole thing with Greece ended, I'll say it briefly. Alexander the Great kind of invaded and brought in rule by force type thing, more tyranny, brought his own people in and all that kind of stuff, and democracy whittled away a little bit. This guy's King Alfred, known as Alfred the Great. So he's one of our first Saxon kings. So we're looking at about 871. We're looking at about 1,000 years or more later. The king of the Anglo-Saxons, England's greatest ruler, the only one to earn and deserve the epithet the Great. Just like Cleisthenes over 1,000 years before King Alfred the Great reaffirmed the sovereignty of the juror in deciding the law. I've put in brackets unanimity. What he said was, like 12 jurors, if it wasn't 12 jurors that gave the guilty verdict, then that guy wasn't guilty. He wasn't found guilty. He was set free. So it had to be not unanimous decision like we know today, like 8-4 or whatever it is. It has to be the whole panel of jurors have to give that guilty verdict for him to be guilty or her. So he was a firm believer in that. Do you know much about King Alfred?
I actually very ignorant. No, I don't know nothing at all, really.
He's probably one of the main people responsible for the early, like, codified law. He wrote, I think it was the Book of Doom, like the first known laws, probably because they were quite religious, like Christians believed in God and all that. So it was based around the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill and all that, and do no harm. And that's where all that comes from. When we talk about common law, just be fair in your dealings and don't rip people off and all that kind of stuff. It was like his model. He was a very moral guy. He believed in fairness. And so he brought back that system of the trial by jury, and it was really serious if you breached that. If you were a convener in them days, or you were trying to go against that system, you were in trouble. You'd be hung for it.
Wow. Okay.
So it was quite serious. He believed in it, and that's where probably the first instances of common law, where it comes from, based on like natural law and God's law, whatever you want to call it, moral sense of what's right and wrong based on Ten Commandments and all that stuff. Governments of constitutional legitimary law of the land, common law, trial by jury, demos, cratia and democratia, the people rule through trial by jury, the Hellenic Athenian constitution of government by trial by jury. So it's the same kind of system there. We have like common people on jury trials and all that kind of stuff. They had a say and they had a role, and they were well aware of that role. It was important. Do you know what I mean? To be honest, it's pretty well documented. Reaffirmed the judicial role of the jurors in trial by jury, with conveners nowadays, misnamed judges, return to their traditional correct functions, having no judicial role but merely court administration, security duties, and subordinates to the principal official at trial by jury. So it's nothing like what we think of today. Judges were basically conveners. Just make sure that it runs okay, that what's meant to be happening is happening. They didn't have any role in like making decisions or case law and what we know common law to be today, how it's interpreted in our rule of law. It was nothing like that. So I found that dead interesting, to be honest. So just touching on the severity, if you were to breach his wishes based on that rule of law, you were hung for it.
If only that was the same today, eh?
I know. However you want to look at it. If you're breaching the Constitution, the rule of law, then you're going to be in the firing line, aren't you? So the principle of unanimity was understood and definitely and constitutionally established by King Alfred the Great in the following way. King Alfred had justice just hanged because Cadwin had a man named Hackwee put to death by hanging without that unanimity of the jury of 12 men. What he did was he basically removed a couple of jurors who wouldn't give the guilty verdict and replaced them. He stacked the jury in his favor. So King Alfred's men, or King Alfred himself, obviously got wind of this and he hung them.
Bloody right as well.
That was it. It was the end. If you were seen to be doing stuff like that, then it was treasonous. Treason, you're going against the system, you're going against the king.
What I find interesting, just to cut in there, it's like we've got this sort of image or perception of history that there wasn't a rule of law. It was like chaos and anarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You look at that and you think that's exactly what we need today. It's almost, it's another reversion, isn't it? It's the opposite.
It is. It's basically to give people the idea that when the Saxons invaded and took over and all that kind of stuff, that it was a terrible place to live, but it was really not. It was organized and people played a role and they felt part of that system and they understood the importance of that rule of law and serving on a jury and trying to make the right decisions based on models. It was important. King Alfred. Sorry, mate.
No, go on, please, go on.
King Alfred was a big advocate for doing the right thing, for moral, for justice, for call it equity, well, whatever, having that fair system.
If you come like today, you get asked for jury service. Not that I ever have, but if I ever did, I'd be like thinking of anything I can to not do that, to get out of it. Yeah, if we had a system like that, it would be an honor to be asked and to do it. You'd want to do it.
I think it would be. The difficult thing with that is you have to face it all. You have to make these tough decisions. And I don't know whether you've seen a film. It's called 12 Angry Men. And it's just about that. It's about these 12 random guys they're on jury service I'm sure it's a murder case. And in the first instance, when they go to convene and all that, they're all like guilty. And there's one guy saying not guilty. And it goes on from there. But people who were serving on there, you've got all different personalities. Some want to get away because they're going to a baseball game and They're not really placing the importance on it that they should be. You know what I mean? They're just like, oh, that kid's guilty. You can see it. He had this knife and blah, blah, blah. And it goes on like that. But this guy starts slowly converting their way of thinking just by fairness, that sense of what's right and wrong. And we shouldn't be sending this kid to his death without looking at this evidence properly and getting the facts and discussing it. We shouldn't be just going, oh, we want to get to a baseball game. Somebody else has had issues with his son. So he's had that relationship where his son's been a bit unruly. So he's already biased because this kid's a teenager or whatever. And it's a really good watch. And it touches on what we're talking about now. And I recommend people to watch it, to be honest, because it really hits home what it is, the importance of jury service, making them kinds of decisions. Yeah.
I've not watched that. I'm going to watch it this weekend.
12 Angry Men. Good film. It's an old black and white film. So that was the kind of thing that happened if you upset King Alfred and his rule of law. This is William Blackstone, just to reinforce that what I'm saying about our Saxon kings isn't false. So William Blackstone is basically a famous, I think he was like a lawyer or something. He does the commentaries on England, English law and that. So I started reading that and looking for inserts and going back and what people had reported on and all that. And I found this quote, and it says, "It is agreed by all our historians that the Great Charter," so he's talking about the Magna Carta of King John, "was for the most part compiled from the ancient customs of the realm or the laws of Edward the Confessor, by which they mean the old common law, which was established under our Saxon princes." So Edward the Confessor was another Saxon king that came after Alfred the Great. But you can, if William Blackstone is saying this about Edward got that rule of law from, and that code of law and that moral stance on how people were governed type thing, he obviously got it from Alfred the Great, from the Saxon kings that came before, and their coronations and everything else that go with it. And he says some other things. It is better that 10 guilty persons escape than one innocent suffer. So again, it's the principle of, it's under common law. It's a crime if someone innocent is found guilty and suffers. So it would be better for 10 guilty people to get away with whatever. You don't really get away with it, do you? Because you've got people serve their own justice and probably did. And then,
very much.
So, again, it's throughout history, and everybody kind of states and reports, it backs up what's being said. Another one here, trial by jury is a privilege of the highest and most beneficial nature, and our most important guardian, both of public and private liberty. The liberties of England cannot but subsist so long as this palladium remains sacred and inviolate, not only from all open attacks, but also from all secret machinations which may sap and undermine it. So again, one of our most famous lawyers in this country, who wrote loads of books, is placing such importance on the trial by jury system. What's happened?
I would literally read that there because we're so far from that, it's not even funny.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's all there. It's all there in history. This guy was, I think he was like a Norman king, Emperor Conrad, but not anything to do with England. It was like Italy and Germany, like European. So he ruled the Holy Roman Empire between them dates, 1027 and 1029. This is almost 200 years before the Magna Carta. With his codified laws, stuff that has been found to exist, this is the Latin of it, one of his laws. And I've put in red there the Judicium Parium Sworem, however you pronounce that. And I've give the English translation, which no one shall lose his estate unless according to the custom of our ancestors, which I'm presuming is common law. I'd say it was common law, and the judgments of his peers. So does that sound familiar?
Absolutely does, yeah.
So that predates Magna Carta by 200 years. So it's more evidence that this trial by jury system was about. If you look at the Latin there, that was like the common language that people spoke. And that translation, which, given a few words here and there, it could be taken from the Magna Carta.
Yeah.
So this is the Magna Carta, Article 39, and you've got the same phrase there in Article 39, Judicium Parium Sworem, vel per legem terri, which is, and the Lord of the land. So this is, no free man shall be arrested or imprisoned or dispossessed of his freehold. So we're still talking about feudal times
Yeah.
and like owning land and all that. So that's what it was. Or his liberties or free customs, or be outlawed or exiled, or in any manner harm, nor will we proceed against him, nor send anyone against him with force of arms, unless by the judgment sentence of his peers. So I'm presuming the sentence is the sworn. So that is like word for word taken from a law written by a king in Europe, ruler of Germany, Italy, and all that's going on about the same stuff, talking about the same systems. So to say that the Magna Carta, birth, trial by jury, and all that is, we've already gone 500 BC to ancient Greece to see the first instances of where proper trial by jury was implemented. So it's all there, and it's not like hearsay. It's in the history books. It's not something that really could be argued, I don't think. I
No.
find that if someone can step up and argue this, I'd like to hear it. I'd be interested to have that conversation. So then we move 200 years later to the Magna Carta, 1215. King John, lawless tyrant who was guilty of committing horrific crimes on the general populace. King John was in breach of common law, legem terri, lord of the land, and the Constitution, meaning he had broken his oath and his contract with his equals, the nobility, the barons, and the entire population. Now, I know there's loads of speculation about who were free men and who were the nobles, and it's open to interpretation. And when I look at the wording from the Magna Carta and the translations, because you've got to dig deep for the translations, because you know people have reworded certain stuff with the Magna Carta.
Yeah.
If you were to Google Magna Carta translation, you probably get a false reading of it, a false translation of it, because it's purposely been edited to, again, take people down the wrong path. Free men was all the people, because in the Magna Carta, when they're discussing things, the barons, when they're talking about, they mention quite a lot. They mention free men, they mention men, persons, Welshmen, all kinds. So to me, it applied to everyone. That's my interpretation of it. I don't believe it was just for the barons. I think the people played a big part in them feudal times, being loyal to the barons, and the barons being able to depend on them people to take arms and all that kind of stuff. That's what it was, rent land and all that kind of stuff, and working land. So yeah, I don't believe that for 1 minute. So that brings me nicely into what I believe to be false claims. So the first one,
Can I ask you about this actually?
the first one is the classic. This is the very first one you get from people before they move on to other stuff. They try this one first. So King John signed Magna Carta under duress, so it invalidates the charter. So my first argument for that is somebody who's torturing people and cutting people's ears off and cutting people's tongues out and falsely imprisoning people and basically pillaging his own people. How do you kill them people? Do you ask them politely just to stop what they're doing? Any tyrant that's been stopped has been under duress, because that's the only way. How else do you do it? In his head, he's got the whole divine rights of kings. I can do what he wants. So he needs to be reined in. And that, to me, it's only going to be done under duress. It's not going to be done any other way, because he's not going to happily just go, yeah, I'll stop doing that. So it just doesn't, it doesn't make sense for people to even bring up that argument, because it's nonsensical, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Well, when we're trying to be realistic, what we're talking about and the atrocities that this man was guilty of, basically. And he'd already broken the terms of his coronation oath. It wasn't just about what he'd done regarding the Pope and all that kind of stuff, which again, we'll get into here. So all I've put in brackets is you have to remember that King John was guilty of some horrific crimes against the people. He was also bound under the common law terms of his coronation oath to uphold the law of the land, common law legislative, and he clearly wasn't. So the next one that we come across a lot is that the Magna Carta 1215 has been repealed. And I think this is where loads of confusion comes from, because the powers that be have tried to deceive the people by creating rewrites and statute form of the Magna Carta, it can't be done. I think that's where the argument for the 1215 Magna Carta being repealed comes from. But my argument is, how can the Constitution be repealed? As we've already discussed way further back in this presentation, we know the difference between the Constitution and statute law. We're not saying that Parliament don't have the power to create statutes, to write it, to amend it, to repeal it. They do. Nobody's arguing that. But Constitution, they don't have any place. It's established by the people. That's what creates governance. Your Constitution creates the governance and the structure for that system. Again, it's just another farce, really. It's not really an argument. So again, how can a constitution be repealed? Who has the authority to repeal constitutional law? Remember, the Magna Carta 1215 is not statute law. It's de facto, isn't it, really? But this is another one. I don't know whether you've come across this one, but the Magna Carta 1215 has been replaced by various readings, which what people talk about, although they talk about the 1225, this 1297, because it still sits on the statute book and it's accessible and we can see it, it gives people the impression that the Magna Carta has been repealed in some way, that lots of articles, including Article 61, the defence clause, have been removed. They've been repealed legally, legitimately, which is completely false. So this was a treasonous act and an attempt to rewrite the Constitution in the form of statutes. This would create the illusion and fool the people into believing that they had legitimate authority to repeal or amend it. No jurisdiction. Also, the 1215 Magna Carta was sealed by King John. What have these people done? Unsealed the Magna Carta to rewrite it and then reseal it. It's been sealed, agreed. That's the end of it. You can't just come in and say, I'm going to rewrite that in statute form. Again, when you know the difference between statutes and constitution and all that kind of stuff, you start putting the pieces of the jigsaw together with what's happened through history quite openly as well. But it doesn't matter what you say. These people who are there to rubbish this kind of stuff, they don't give up. They just carry on. You just have to, in the end, just go, okay, believe what it is you want. Because you just go on forever with these people because they're relentless on Twitter.
They don't accept like the obvious, they won't even engage with the obvious truth. Like when you point something like that out, they won't engage with that fact. They'll just deflect and they carry on with their argument. And like I've got to the point of, I don't know, man, we've all got a brain, right? We've got common sense and rational thought. And I don't know about you, but if somebody's put something out there that's just a pretty sensible question that's made me think, hang on, makes me think twice, I'm going to engage on that question and potentially rethink what I thought I knew. The ones that don't, it makes me question, have they got an agenda? Are they being funded to do that? Like, what's really going on there? Do you know what I mean?
I think they have, because I opened the Twitter account and it's called The Real Magna Carta at the People Rule. And I've got something like 3 followers. I'm hardly any sort of influence. But within a month, you should have seen the amount of trolls and shills that come out the woodwork to try and discredit what I was doing, even though it wasn't reaching anybody.
They were finding you to attack you.
Yeah. And it got to a point where it was like, it started being personal. Like I thought, wow, did these people really find this stuff that bad to go to them levels? As I said, I had 3 followers. I'm hardly an influencer in any way. Do you know what I mean? But
that's what makes me think there's something else there going on, because if you're sane, why would you do that? Why would you put that much energy into seeking?
I think a lot of these people are paid. They're paid skills to scour the internet and social media to steer people away from the truth. I call them concealers of the truth. That's what I believe they are. I don't think they're there to find the truth. They're there to conceal it by them actors, whoever's paying them, whoever's giving them ends. That's how I see it. Because as I said, I wouldn't class me with 3 followers and 15 posts as an influencer in any way. It was almost like the buzzword is Magna Carta 1215. That's your job for this month. You discredit what these people are trying to put out. And I think that goes with everything. You just look at what's happening with yourself with certain things where you've had people try to discredit what your moral intent is. William Keat has been called anti-Semitic and all kinds already. And he's just blown up over, although he's been talking for years and years, it's kind of just exploded. He's been on Richard Bowes, he's been on TV. You know what I mean?
Shows there's an audience for this truth because of the situation we're in. I think people are just looking for answers. And I think certainly our position is just that we already have the answers. History tells us the answers. It's already there.
I think people, especially people who are waking up and woke up a bit more recently than others, they look at this kind of stuff and a lot of it causes confusion because they've been told this, been told the other and all that. All I would say is don't take what I started to do with my journey. I was like, okay, I've listened to these guys and they're great and they sound amazing, but I'm going to do that research as well. Whatever they've read, I'm going to go and read that. I need confirmation. And I'm not just going to go to one source. I'm going to read another book and I'm going to read about people who are trying to discredit this stuff and see what their background is and what their argument is. Because all I'm seeking is truth. What's being concealed? Because it's not just about constitutional law. We know how bad things are getting and how evil people are with what's gone on. We know that. Do you know what I mean? So for me, it's all intertwined. The constitutional law is just one section. When people are experts on what happened during COVID, people are experts on geoengineering and other people are clued up on the Great Reset and what's going on with Klaus Schwab and all them kind of guys who were trying to govern with no power. They're directing governments, aren't they, really? Nobody's elected these people, but they're dictating to governments what should be done with net zero and everything else. So we've got a vast amount of knowledgeable people in the freedom movement. And I think it's all as one, that we're just seeking the truth. What's going on? Yeah. What is that about? What are these chemtrails? Why are you spraying stuff in the sky?
Yeah.
Why are you putting stuff in food? Why are we vaccinating people with poison? All them questions need to be answered, I think, for us to move on, for us to move forward. And I don't know whether it's purposely done for this collapse. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's all connected. So another false claim, and this one's big as well. I get this everywhere. The Magna Carta 1215 only applied to the barons. So my answer to this was, and this is from my research and reading Democracy Defined, listening to On the Armed Common Man, free men or freeholders. The majority of the population were free men. Legislation changed the meaning of free men to landowners. You get left free jargon that we get now.
Yeah.
Homeowners, land being freehold and all that kind of stuff. That's basically where it comes from. It comes from like statutes, legislation that's come out. Again, it's a play on words. And also what I found, and nobody's mentioned there, but Article 20 mentions billions, proving that it applied to everyone. Because from my understanding, billions were poor, common people.
Right.
And Article 20 kind of goes on about fine people or people being fine or something to that degree. But it mentioned barons as barons, billions as billions, which is, there's a clear separation there. They're talking about a different class of people, clearly. And that's what I mean. Like the translation of the Magna Carta, it mentions all kinds of people, not just barons or freemen. It mentions like persons and men. It's just too much for somebody to just come along and say, oh no, that was just for barons. Just doesn't make sense. The barons, why the big emphasis on barons to me is because they were the king's social equals. So they were the people who were on par with the king, in a sense. If he was acting up, then it was down to the barons. It basically was. That's why it came about. That was the barons saying enough's enough. And it wasn't just for the barons, we're doing it on behalf of the people.
Makes a lot of sense.
It does. And again, I think it's just trolls and shills and paid people, concealers of truth, who were purposely trying to direct people away from this stuff.
Yeah.
So another claim is Pope excused or pardoned John for his wrongdoings. So what happened was, when the barons were trying to heal John, he went to the Pope to try and get some sort of what he decided to do, and this is why the basically annulled the Magna Carta came about. John basically tried to make Pope Innocent III his feudal king, so place him in charge of England.
Oh, wow.
And that's where all this comes about. The Pope had power to annul the Magna Carta because King John made him his feudal king, so placing all the affairs in his hands, basically.
Was this the same Pope that then wrote the was it the 1227 Magna Carta?
I'm not too sure about that, but you might be right. I don't know. I don't think Pope Innocent III was around much longer than that. I think he was around for about another 5 to 10 years. I don't think he was 1297. I think he was gone. He was dead, I'm sure. But
sorry, dude. The other truth that just occurred to me is that we can look at what we know today about the Pope and the Vatican and the Catholic Church. And I'm not citing this with any evidence, but we know a lot of stuff to be true. So it's not too hard to bring that back to this moment in time and see the same level of corruption going on. And the things they might do to get rid of the Magna Carta, because obviously this was a major threat to the establishment.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. As I said, I think King John trying to do what he did regarding the Pope and all that kind of stuff, because from my understanding, that the popes of them times, some of them were corrupt as well, power grabbers.
Yeah, no doubt.
Trying to get money, because I think what it was, he took a cut. He took 1,000, whatever it was, marks every month or whatever it was, that was paid to the Pope, to Rome, basically. But it comes back to the whole thing. Under his coronation oath and his promise to uphold common law and that kind of stuff, he'd already breached it by going to the Pope. Because that happened even before the Magna Carta was drawn up, because in them days, the Pope kind of excommunicated people who he wasn't happy with or didn't bow down to him type thing. It used God as a threat a lot, and that was common. That was commonplace in them times. But that doesn't excuse John from breaching his coronation and making decisions that he had no right to make. And again, his barons were his social equals, not the Pope. To go and do that without any sort of, with the barons or any sort of, that couldn't be done. It was just wrong. John's feudal position placed the nobility, the barons, as John's equals and judges in accord with common law. All pacts or agreements drawn up by the Pope to absolve John from his wrongs were illegal and void. So he didn't have any authority or jurisdiction to annul the Magna Carta, because King John's actions making the Pope his feudal king were illegal. Yeah. So the whole thing, although it happened, I'm not disputing that it happened, because it did happen. But what I'm saying, that doesn't make it right. We should still be questioning it and saying, hang on a minute, how did that come about? There's been breaches. We can't just accept stuff because it happened. We should be fighting for truth and fighting for what's right. And what's happened right throughout history is clearly wrong, and it's led us to this place in time. So this was interesting. This is King Edward, and Rome and the Pope of the day were still trying to get money. So they were still demanding payments from them days, them agreements, Pope being feudal king and all that kind of stuff. A ruling given to King Edward 1366, in which he was told that King John's actions in surrendering England to the Pope and making England a vassal king to Rome was illegal because England did not belong to John. He only held it in trust for those who followed on. So to me, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
That's more legitimate than what's happened throughout history. It clearly states this is when they stopped paying that money to Rome because they were like, hang on a minute, I'm not going to be held responsible for some other corrupt tyrant king making back alley deals with popes, trying to give away England to Rome. I didn't do that. How can I be held responsible for that and carry on paying this money? It's not right. And that's where that argument came. And that was that it was illegal. And that's well documented as well. Can all this be wrong? So looking at the Magna Carta, the few clauses, like I'm not saying the whole of the Magna Carta needs to be reinstated. I'm talking about a few main clauses that are relevant to our constitution, to our common law constitution, trial by jury. So this is Article 39, and we've already read this. So this gives a bit more interpretation to what it means. No free man or free person shall be arrested or imprisoned or deprived of his freehold or his liberties or free customs, or be outlawed or exiled, or in any manner harmed, nor will we, in brackets. And again, this is from, it's not just Democracy Defined. I don't know if you have him, but Ken Dewdney, he's got a website and I think it's called democracydefined.org. And there's loads of other pamphlets and articles regarding the Bill of Rights, regarding our banking system, regarding lots of other stuff that's going on today. So it's dead interesting. And I do recommend that people go to that website and have a look at that as well.
What we'll do is we'll have the links, guys, and all of this stuff in the description of the video, including, I'd say, your Twitter profile, so we can get some more followers going on.
Yeah. We need more than 3, mate, to make a bit more of an impression. He puts in bracket keywords, nor send anyone against him with force or arms, unless according to that is an execution of the legal judgment of his peers and according to common law of the land. No enforcement of laws unless it is trial by jury of one's peers, who in turn are judging the guilt and intent of the defendant, malice aforethought, as well as the lawfulness of the legislation, the law, whatever you want to call it, policy. The jury have power to annul if deemed necessary. This concludes that a magistrate's court and trial by judge is fundamentally unconstitutional and breaches Article 30. As does the warped meaning of common law, which is not judge-made law, case law. It's man-made law, isn't it? It's what we make.
Exactly.
It's through jury trials that case law comes about. It doesn't come from judges again. We've spoke about this, haven't we? It's another deception. It's an interpretation that is basically fool people into believing what's going on today is legit. That's Article 39. Article 40, to no one will we sell, to no one will we refuse or delay for justice. No one has immunity, and that includes government personnel.
Bring that back.
This is the thing. Even if you look at the 1290 Article 39, even though it's probably been amended in some way to read differently, and you've also got Article 40, but how difficult is it to get justice in this country without paying?
Yeah, you just wouldn't get that heard.
Get it, then, yeah.
Yeah, it's just corrupt.
Got all these kind of fees. So why are we not questioning that? Why are we not screaming from the rooftops to say, hang on a minute, what does this mean? Is it still relevant? And if it isn't relevant, why isn't it relevant given everything that's been said up to this point? It's just, it discourages people from trying to get justice in any way, because the best we can do really is, I don't know, do we get legal aid? Do we get free? If we're trying to sue someone, it's not free, is it? If we're trying to make a claim of some sort, we have to pay. Am I correct in saying that?
You have to pay, although you can, if you're financially strapped, you can fill in a little form EX170,
Okay.
and it will give you a code which will enable you to file for free.
Okay.
So there are ways to do it. You can definitely sue people, but even that that requires people putting their time aside to research and learn and do it.
Exactly. Is that information advertised everywhere?
I would say no, because I didn't know. Someone else actually told me about it. I had no idea. And then obviously, once you know about it, it's there and it's easy to find.
Yeah.
You can't Google this stuff and it all just
No.
pops up magically, hidden, buried.
So moving on, this is Article 61, which, to be honest, reading this, I'm not going to read it, but people can look at the screen. They can even look at Article 61 if they get a proper translation of the Magna Carta. I'll just read what I've put in brackets. It is the duty of all men and women to uphold our constitution and the common law of the land, pledge and territory. So what we should be doing, we should be bringing this up. It's our moral duty to make sure that our constitution's upheld, that constitutional law is upheld, that we have that system of equity, that trial by jury is in place. And it's not what we're doing. I'm not talking about swearing an oath to the barons and all that, like it says in this. I don't think we have to go to them measures to get some sort of remedy here. I'm just saying that really, if this Magna Carta is legit and it's the real deal, then it's everybody's duty and responsibility to be talking about this, to be trying to get some sort of, not a debate as such, but asking these questions and answering out there.
Can I ask a quick question, actually? Have you got a translated copy?
I've got a translation of Magna Carta, and I've got the main articles are translated in Democracy Defined. And Ken Dubney does an amazing job of translating that and getting legit translations. And you can actually see where it's been amended. If you were to go to any sort of historian website of any such and get a translation, it would be something that's been falsely amended.
So what we'll do then, we'll offer your translation as a free download in the description.
I think if we look at articles, like these translations of what are up here, because they're out of Democracy Defined.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it, and I'm not saying this being funny, a lot of it doesn't apply now. We don't need to discuss, I'll give you 3 apples for your horse and cart. We're not talking about returning to medieval times. We're just saying the main articles, the principle of that Magna Carta 1215, the few articles that apply to this system. That's all I'm really talking about. I mentioned Article 63, which obviously, according to the establishment, has been repealed and all that, along with 61. So this was just basically saying that it stands for all time. Everything that's written in the Magna Carta stands for all time. That's what it says. Wherefore we will and firmly enjoin that the Church of England be free, and that all men in our kingdom have and hold all the aforesaid liberties, rights, and concessions truly and peaceably, freely and quietly, fully and wholly to themselves and their heirs, of us and our heirs in all things and places forever, as is aforesaid. So I've put in brackets, it stands forever for all time, meaning the articles within the Magna Carta 1215, what we're discussing, the main articles. This would include governments by trial by jury, returning sovereignty to the people as jurors. That's the
says it all, doesn't it, really?
This is the main point, really. This is to help people understand what's gone on and to trigger them to do some research themselves and not just take my word for it or anybody else's word for it.
Yeah.
And then I think we need to unite on this. I think there needs to be that education process and then people coming together to try and get some sort of answers. You don't have to take to the streets with pitchforks and all that. I'm just saying these questions need to be asked first and foremost. It's important, but I don't think that's going to come until people they have confidence in what's being said, which means they have a clear understanding and they can see what's gone on and they can put them pieces of the jigsaw together and they're comfortable talking about it and that kind of stuff. That needs to come first, because otherwise you're just following, aren't you? People like me and everyone else who are deciding to talk about this kind of stuff, we could just be other people taking people down the wrong path. There isn't anything to suggest that other than isn't there. But what I'm saying is, I think people would be more comfortable if they read the books, they go to them sources of history, they see it themselves, and it's not just presented nicely in a presentation by a stranger, is what I'm saying. To me, it's really important for people to have a clear understanding, and they're comfortable. They get to a level where they're comfortable talking about it because they understand it. And that's when people are going to stand together and they're going to be, this is wrong. We need to do something. What are we doing? And that's what's going to trigger it. But if people haven't got that, then it's less likely to happen because there's no confidence there in it.
Yeah.
Because that understanding isn't there. It's missing. So nobody's going to take action. And that's where we're at now, I think. Because of the general consensus that the Magna doesn't mean anything, or it hasn't meant anything, it's not, it can't be used in this legal system. Whatever people think, that's what's solidified what's going on now. And there's no way out of that unless people do this for themselves. They have to take this. It's important. They have to take research themselves. Otherwise, they're just following without knowing.
This is what's been going on in this sort of freedom movement. There's a lot of different groups out there saying lots of different things, and you've got all your little different what's the word I'm looking for? Followers to each group. And there's different loyalties. It's the standard shit, basically. And
you hit the nail on the head, Gavin, because this is half the problem, because you've got that many different factions and people.
That's a great word, yeah.
And believe that there's no unity. And even if people think differently or there's no togetherness, people just want to be personal or skit or say, you're stupid, why do you believe in the Magna Carta? It's a load of rubbish. The Pope annulled it 200 years ago, 500 years ago, whenever. That's how easy it is to take people down the wrong route.
No, I agree with you.
I've spent, as I said at the beginning, I started listening to David Icke probably very late 90s, early 2000s, and it was a lot for me to take in. It actually scared me, to be honest. The information he was putting out, it was like nothing. He was naming people in the establishments and different areas of governments, and he was talking about NATO. He was talking about the World Health Organization. He was talking about things that have happened, and we had all this knowledge. And that's what that started me on this path, to be honest. But eventually I got to this kind of stuff. Again, it's all relevant. All of this stuff is relevant. But I think what William Keats said, we can go round in circles. I've been down so many rabbit holes, and I've been down the birth certificates and the all caps name and flipping maritime law and Lord of the Sea. And I'm like, why is it our duty to unravel all that shit to get any sort of remedy?
Yeah.
Do I want to spend 25 years of my life trying to unravel the riddles and the things that have been put in place by our establishment to cause mass confusion? Is it my duty to unravel that to have a decent life?
No.
So this is what started this, because this is real to me, because it's accessible, it's history, it's happened. It can't be refuted in that sense. I'm not trying to unravel a conspiracy as such, hearsay, or this happened and was there any proof of that? Yeah, you've got this private account and it's got millions in it. And I'm like, how can I use that now? I'll be long dead before that's ever brought to the surface. And I think that them kind of distractions are purposely put in place to take people away from something as simple as this. And it's not difficult. It really isn't difficult to understand. You know, you can put the pieces together quite easily. This was the case, not the case. This was the conversation in the Lords. It was something to do with football hooliganism. I think it was 2000. And this Earl Russell was going on about amending Magna Carta. For some reason, there was something relevant within Magna Carta to do with what was being spoken about. He said, I'm not a fundamentalist. it is a well-established legal point that as Parliament is sovereign, there's that Parliament is sovereign again. Parliament may amend Magna Carta. I am, with a little reluctance, I must confess, prepared on this occasion to agree that Parliament may amend Magna Carta. I am prepared to accept new Section 14A in Schedule 1 to the bill, which deals with people who have committed a known offence. So that's what it was about, and I'm sure it was to do with football hooligans, but this Lord Renton spoke next. And again, this is well documented. My lords, before the noble Earl sits down, perhaps I may mention one point in relation to his fascinating speech. He suggested that we should amend Magna Carta. We cannot do that. Magna Carta was formulated before we ever had a parliament. All that we can do is to amend that legislation, which in later years, when we did have a parliament, implemented Magna Carta. So what he's saying is, are you mad? You're suggesting that you're going to allow the Magna Carta to be amended. He's basically making fun of him. He's saying, who are you to say that, oh, on this occasion, I'm going to allow the Magna Carta to be amended? It's a nonsense, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? This is how arrogant and how out of touch these people are. So he had that to say. And once he'd embarrassed this, Earl Russell was like, my lords, the noble lord is of course correct in relation to present legislation. However, 17th century parliaments treated Magna Carta in its 1229 version as being an act of parliament. Yeah, okay, we understand that. You can amend and repeal and do whatever you want with that. But the original Magna Carta, you've got no authority at all. So he goes on to say, I spoke loosely and I hope that the noble lord will forgive me. So again, that's a discussion that took place not that long ago. We're talking about 20-something years. So it's pretty recent. And they're having these conversations about the Magna Carta. Now, if the Magna Carta isn't legit, then why are these conversations taking place?
Exactly, yeah.
Why have some people got the impression that the Magna Carta is sacred, it's real, and it's legit, and other people haven't? I don't get it. Some of it's down to ignorance, but on the bigger scale, it means something because the Magna is basically enshrined in our Constitution, basically. It's real. And these people wouldn't be discussing it. Article 61 wouldn't have been invoked. The Queen's Secretary wouldn't have responded to the barons. All this stuff it happened. It's legit. All the stuff regarding how we were shoehorned into the EU by the Edward Heath administration, the letter from Lord Kilmuir, it's all there. The document that you've shown us before regarding conversations that took place about hiding it from people and the loss of sovereignty and the loss of our courts and laws. That's all real. So why are we not discussing it? Why are we not having this on a mass scale? Because to me, it's like, how can you not talk about that once you know? Once you're aware of these facts, how can you not bring it up?
Hopefully, mate, that's certainly the intention of this video, the concept of putting out here, that will start that conversation, because so much more about this than I do. We've had a lot of conversations, but what I'm taking from this whole thing is that historical facts is pretty much saying or proving that Magna Carta, being a sealed treaty, cannot be repealed and therefore still stands today. We've got all this shenanigans that's gone on right until we are today, right? When you look at it like that, yeah, we should be having this conversation, and it should be more about how do we bring it back so we can stand on it? Or not even bring it back because it is there already. How do we stand on it, I guess, is the question.
I don't know as I say, I don't know what the answer, like the short-term answer, but I think the longer-term answer is to have these discussions just within the freedom movement, if anything, to start with, just to try and get a number of people on the same page, willing to take some sort of back. I don't know. As I said, I don't know what the short-term answers are, because obviously we're not quite there in the sense of people's understanding of what's going on. But yeah, it's important, I think, to just try and get the message out. So moving on to the next slide, this was a case regarding William Penn and William Mead, who were tried for preaching to an unlawful assembly in Grace Church Street. So this is the tablet that commemorates that. The courage and endurance of the jury. So we're talking about Edward Bushell and 10 others who refused to give a verdict against them, although locked up without food for 2 nights, and were fined for their final verdict, not guilty. The case of these jurymen was reviewed on a writ of habeas corpus, and Chief Justice Vaughan delivered the opinion of the court, which established the rights of juries to give their verdict according to their own convictions. I'm pretty sure that stands in a court somewhere. It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's probably hidden in the corner somewhere so no one can see it. But yeah, they were clearly guilty of that offence, preaching to an unlawful assembly, but the jury wouldn't find them guilty because they thought it wasn't just.
Yeah.
Although they broke the legislation or whatever it was, their convictions were, well, that's unlawful. They should be allowed to do that if that's what they want to do. It's not causing anybody any harm or any grief of any sort. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's obviously, we're getting into the trial by jury, and the jury having the law or the legislation to give a guilty verdict. So that was a really important case, though.
You can see why they won't get rid of it, don't you?
Yeah. So this is a Chief Justice Harlan F. Statutes involved in any criminal offence is unfair, or that it infringes upon the defendant's natural, God-given, unalienable, or constitutional rights, then it is his duty to affirm that the offending statute is really no law at all, and that the violation of it is no crime at all, for no one is bound to obey an unjust law. That juror must vote not guilty regardless of the pressures or abuses that may be heaped on him by any or all members of the jury with whom he may in good conscience disagree. He is voting on the justice of the law according to his own conscience. So again, we're getting into natural law there, and our built-in mechanism of what's right and wrong, our own convictions, and someone else's. The law itself is on trial quite as much as the case which is to be decided. So that's Chief Justice Harlan F. Stone. And look at the date. What, 1 to 1946. We're not talking about thousands of years ago. We're talking about quite recent. Are these people talking bollocks now? Is this not real? Is this to disregard all these flipping professional men who know these systems that were in place? Are we just to rubbish that now? It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't sit right with me. I don't know about you.
No, I'm with you, man.
How do you feel looking at these slides now and taking this information? And how do you feel about that yourself?
It pisses me off that we are in the state that we're in today, that you can't even have that conversation. You know what I mean? You can't bring that truth into it.
Yeah, totally agree, mate. This is another guy. He goes on about trial by jury a lot. He's got a book. I forget what it's called.
I recognise that name, actually.
Lyson the Spooner, an advocate for trial by jury. And this is what he had to say. The trial by jury is a trial by the country, in contradistinction to a trial by the government. The jurors are drawn by lot from the mass of the people for the very purpose of having all classes of minds and feelings that prevail among the people at large represented in the jury. So we're talking about all walks of life having a say. We're not just talking about educated people or rich people or what we've experienced in the last 500 years or whatever. Since all the stuff with the Whigs started, probably around the time of the Bill of Rights, where, the first, that's where the corruption started and the dismantling of democracy.
What I like about this, the words, it's like the truth resonates, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like you have all these people today say what they say about the legal system, and it doesn't resonate because it's fucking wrong. You know what I mean? And you read these things, you think that's exactly how it should be.
I think it resonates with people who have got that sense of right and wrong, because this tells you everything you need to know about what's happened. And to be honest, once you start taking it in, it's upsetting. It upset me, to be honest, how we've been manipulated and deceived over that amount of time. And we've basically adhered to our own enslavement for a way of explaining it or wording it. That's how I felt. And it upset me. I was thinking about all my ancestors and people who were around at different times of this, who've suffered over this kind of stuff. People, a minority trying to rule the many, the establishment that we've got, the corrupt system that we've got. I don't know. I felt like I wanted to make some sort of, it didn't even have to be a great difference, just something simple as talking about it. I didn't want to be one of these people who was scared to say something or to speak out or put themselves out there for what they believed in. I think that's what it was more than anything. Even if it didn't make a big enough ripple, I could say to myself, look, I did something. I did try to fight the system. I did try to put a message out there or put information out there. That is readily available, by the way. It's not my message or my information. It's all there for everybody. But yeah, it's a bitter pill to swallow. But it's like anything though, mate, isn't it? When you wake up to like the legal system, or you wake up to what happened during COVID, or you wake up to what's going on with these planes flying everywhere, spraying the skies. It's like when you wake up to, when you're exposed to all that kind of stuff, it's difficult to just sit back and that's going on and just not doing anything about it.
I think it says a lot about the individuals that do know about it, that do sit back and do know.
I just thought my kids, everybody else's kids, their kids, our grandchildren, I didn't want people to think of me as, oh, what did you do when all that was going on? Because I feel like it's our moral duty as adults and as parents and as people who are being exposed to this information and know what's going on. And again, it's going back to natural law. It's like a moral duty not to sit on that information and kind of do everything in your power to get that stuff out there.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
same page, mate.
I think hopefully we can all get together and talk about this stuff and think of a way forward. So anyway, this is Winston Churchill. Again, we're not talking about millions of years ago. We're talking about after the war and stuff, not that long ago. So he says, power of the executive to cast a man into prison without formulating any charge known to the law, and particularly to deny him the judgment of his peers, is in the highest degree odious and is the foundation of all totalitarian governments, whether Nazi or communist. So that's what he thought about it. The judgment of his peers. It was clearly something of high significance, even in recent history. So this is Thomas Jefferson. I consider trial by jury as the only anchor ever yet imagined by man, by which a government can be held to the principles of its constitution. That was Thomas Jefferson.
Says it all there, doesn't it?
They're not. They're people of importance in history, aren't they? They're all saying the same stuff. It's not like anybody's saying anything different, which is, again, pointing to the same thing. So this was Malcolm X, and I just thought this was like inspirational in the sense, how do we move forward? So he said, we need more light about each other.
Light creates understanding. Understanding creates love. Love creates patience. And patience creates unity.
And that's what we need, I think, mate. I think we need unity. We need people to come together. Again, Martin Luther King, darkness cannot drive out darkness.
Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that.
We don't want to do what they're doing to them. I feel sorry for them. I feel sorry that they're that way inclined, that they want to control people and enslave people. I'd rather fight that with, as he said, not trying to do the same thing, because it creates the wrong energy, doesn't it? If we're all using the same tactics, hate, the low vibrations, you take over, don't they?
And it's exactly what they want. And I think that's why you're right there. You got to, it's exactly what they want. That's what they're trying to get us triggered to do. So the only alternative is to live in light and to live in love. And point that you make there of bringing people together, I think that's the key thing. It's if we can't come together and just have adult conversations about this stuff and not get triggered by what someone else says or what someone else's group is doing and this, that, and the other, fucking we're lost. We're not awake.
I think at this point, it's not about being right or wrong for me. It's just about the truth coming to the surface.
Exactly that, yeah.
I'm happy to be wrong in anything I do because I know in myself and in my own heart that I'm just trying to do the right thing. I'm just seeking the truth. I don't want to hurt anyone or upset anyone with what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's not the angle. It's to try and have something different, something better for our children, for their children. That's the main focus. You know what I mean? Creating a better environment, a better world where our kids aren't being screwed over by the system. Because that's a lot of it is about the quality of life while we're here as well.
And that's something that and I don't know, but you would assume everyone can get behind that. Because that's the reason I'm here. It's not about me, it's about my kids. Yeah.
I'd like to think so. Well, I think that's the main message. Well, other than don't disregard it, look into it first. I know people have got their own thoughts on what's been said in this presentation. They've got their own thoughts, and that's fine. But what I would say is just don't disregard it and what somebody else is saying or what their views are, or another group or whatever it is. Look at it yourself.
Find out for yourself.
No, at least give it that. When you might be pleasantly surprised, you might be like, wow, yeah, I can see that, you know.
And I think as a minimum, if you don't do anything, read the book, Democracy Defined. That will be, the link for that will be in the description.
To be honest, mate, this whole presentation is based around the information on that website and in that book with what William Keys, the fantastic work he's been doing, not just recently, for years. That guy's been putting this information out for years. I will mention Voice of Freedom, the Australian guys, Carl and Fitz as well, because I learned a lot from them because they talk about the Magna Carta. They've got lessons. In fact, they've got something like, it's like 25 to 30 videos on the Magna Carta, and Fitz goes into natural law. Another amazing, knowledgeable guy. You'll learn loads from him. Who else am I missing? Because that's where I've got the information from. That's what's led me. The people that I've mentioned and the books and the websites is how I've been able to compile this presentation and put the slides together. It's based on that information, if anything.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of it is history as well. It's factual. You can pick up a history book and read about this stuff. So it's not hard. It just takes a little bit of time to do that research, to do that bit of reading. But once you've done it, it's liberating, I think. It's
standing in your power, mate. That's what it's all about.
It is, mate. It is.
So
it is.
I think,
that was the last slide to say what I'm missing. The real Magna Carta 1215 at People Rule Twitter. If you believe in this kind of stuff, if it resonates with you, you can support it. Drop me a message, whatever. We can have a chat about it. Easily accessible. I'm happy to talk, to give anyone time. It's not an issue at all if anybody wants to talk about it. And that's pretty much it, mate. I just want to thank you for letting me come on and talk about this stuff. It was a pleasure. I enjoyed it. You know,
it's been an absolute pleasure. And guys watching this, you don't know how long this has actually been longer than 2 months in the making to get this together. So I'm really glad you've done it. It's an amazing presentation with a lot of information. So folks, obviously you now know why you're going to be pausing this a lot and stopping and researching and everything else. We're probably going to broken this into a few different videos just to make it a bit easier to digest because there's a lot of information there. All of the links that for the books and everything else will be in the description, including Damien's Twitter. And then leave us comments, right? That's the only feedback we really know as to whether you like this stuff and want more of this stuff or not. If you leave some comments, questions, whatever, we'll see that you want it and we can provide more information in the future as well. So hopefully this won't be the first and last time that Damien's here on the channel talking to you guys. So with that said, thank you very much and we'll see you on the next one.
Do you find the legal system overwhelming and wish you had the knowledge and skill sets to control judges, persuade attorneys, and win your case? Well, look no further. Sovereign Empowerment is proud to announce our partnership with Dr. Frederick Graves so that we can bring you the Jurisdictionary Law course, How to Win in Court, your ultimate resource for mastering the courtroom. Unlock powerful case-winning strategies as you learn to control judges like never before. This comprehensive course eliminates guesswork and empowers you to navigate the legal landscape with absolute confidence. With step-by-step instructions, flowcharts, and outlines, you'll have all the tools you need to persuade and control judges in any case or court. Learn from a seasoned attorney with over 40 years of winning experience, who has distilled his expertise into this comprehensive program. Access everything you need in one single package, including sample forms, video seminars, audio clips, and in-depth case-winning classes. Learn at your own pace, anytime, anywhere. Our 24/7 online access allows you to tailor your learning experience to fit your schedule. Access the course on your smartphone, tablet, or computer and become a legal master whenever and wherever you want. Benefit from a suite of powerful tools, including a free online legal research tool, a legal dictionary with common sense definitions, and an exclusive Q&A forum to connect with fellow students and obtain expert guidance. Good people have suffered too long at the hands of power because they just didn't know how to fight back. Now, in a matter of just a few days, you can acquire the tools and knowledge that takes law students years to achieve. Can't afford a lawyer? No problem. With the Jurisdictionary Law course, you'll gain the skills to win your case without expensive legal representation. Alternatively, equip your own legal consult with the tools and tactics to fight effectively on your behalf. Level the playing field and secure your victory. No matter what court, civil or criminal, conquer any courtroom challenge with ease. This step-by-step guidance ensures a quick and straightforward learning experience, empowering you to navigate the legal system with bulletproof confidence. As a testament to your newfound legal expertise, you'll have the opportunity to complete a final exam and receive an honorary law degree upon successful completion of the course. Showcase your achievement and establish yourself as a force to be reckoned with in the legal arena. Dr. Graves believes everyone deserves access to legal knowledge. That's why we offer the Jurisdictionary Law course at an unbeatable price. For less than the cost of a 1-hour legal consultation, you'll gain unlimited access to this complete program for up to 2 full years. Take control of your legal battles without breaking the bank. How to Win in Court has become the most trusted law course worldwide since 1997. Don't miss out on this exclusive opportunity to gain the upper hand in the courtroom. Enroll in the official Jurisdictionary Law course today and unleash your legal power. Click the link in the description below to become legally empowered today.